Greetings, MBAP 518 international management students. This is Dr. Jaros with the last video explanation, this time for exam number 3. So let's go through the questions. First of all, question number 1, describe the obstacles to companies meeting the needs of the global poor. Well, there are two kinds of obstacles that companies face that want to meet the needs of the global poor. One set of obstacles involves the characteristics of the poor countries themselves. Poor countries typically have characteristics that make doing business difficult. Poor people may have limited buying power. Poor countries are often characterized by high levels of government corruption. They also may be characterized by poor infrastructure, and they also are often characterized by violence in the form of wars or terrorism. So there are a lot of characteristics of poor countries that are obstacles to being able to do business. But another problem is the mindset that corporate managers have. Corporate managers often wrongly believe that poor people do not constitute a viable market for products and services, when in fact they do. And also they sometimes wrongly believe that these characteristics of the poor countries are insurmountable, when in fact there are many companies that have been successful in doing business, in making money in poor countries. So you have characteristics of the poor countries themselves, and then the mindset problem that many corporate managers have in wrongly believing that poor countries should be written off as places where business cannot be profitably conducted. Question number 2. If I'm a manager at Google and I am responsible for firm operations in South America, what kind of management role am I playing? More generally, what are the responsibilities of this kind of manager in a global firm? Well, you are playing the role of the geographic subsidiary manager. The geographic subsidiary manager is the top manager for a firm within a particular geographical area, in this case, South America. There are 3 key responsibilities that a geographic subsidiary manager has. One is the role of the bicultural interpreter, which means they act as a liaison between the culture of the area that they are governing and the culture of corporate headquarters, which is often in a different part of the world. Okay. Also, national defender, when it comes to making sure that their area of the globe gets its fair share of resources and budgets and the like. They have to be an advocate for their area. And then also an implementer of corporate strategy. It's their job to take corporate strategy and apply it within their geographic area. So those are the 3 key roles and responsibilities. All right, question number 3. Explain what successes and failures Levendary Cafe experienced in the Chinese market. Well, on the success side, Levendary was able to establish itself very quickly within the Chinese market. It was able to open up 23 cafes in a short period of time, located in major Chinese cities like Shanghai and Beijing. And also, they did a good job of customizing their product offerings to meet the tastes and preferences of Chinese consumers. This was largely a testament to the efforts of Mr. Chen, who was overseeing the operation and who had good contacts in China. And that's another point. They were successful at navigating the Chinese bureaucracy, which can be very onerous, to get the necessary approvals to open up these cafes. So revenues were growing thanks to these 23 cafes that were opened up. But there were also failures. First of all, the operation, as of the time of the case, was still losing money. It had not reached a break-even point. So they were making revenues off those cafes in China, but not enough to cover the expenses. More concerning from a corporate point of view, The restaurants that were opened in China often did not conform to corporate strategy and policy with regards to food offerings, the decor of the restaurant, and the operations of the restaurant. So there were a lot of violations that were occurring with regards to corporate policy in terms of how the restaurants were supposed to be run. Worst of all, Mr. Chen was engaging in poor financial reporting practices. The financial reports he was submitting back to headquarters in Denver were not in the required forms, and this was creating a possible GAAP problem that could raise issues with auditors and government regulators in the USA. All right, let's look at question number 4. What kinds of issues did IKEA face with their global rug business? Has it handled these issues successfully or no? Explain. Basically, IKEA faced the problem of child labor in its rug operations in India. Well, really, the rug operations that were being run by Indian subcontractors who IKEA was doing business with, had contracts with to supply it with the rugs. Time and again, it was discovered over many years of many-year period of time that some of these subcontractors were using child labor to make the rugs, which is problematic because it violates the law, at least in Western countries where IKEA operates, and it was against IKEA corporate policy. How has it handled these issues successfully or no? Yes and no. It's had mixed success. On the one hand, IKEA has been able to implement revised contracts with its Indian partners, which require them not to use child labor, and which has reduced the chances of the problem arising. And it has done a better job of partnering with NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to better address the child labor issue. But so progress has been made. But on the other hand, the problem of child labor keeps arising. Not as much as it did in the past, but despite these efforts, they're still having incidences of child labor being reported among some of their subcontractors. So as of the time of the case, they have not yet fully succeeded in eliminating the problem of child labor usage in Indian subcontractors. That's my explanation for how I graded the exam. Good luck to you in your other MBA classes this semester and in the fall. And if any of you are graduating this semester, congratulations.